Hi, welcome to Astrology Talk Investigates with me, Christina Rodenbeck from the Oxford Astrologer, and my dear friend and colleague, Sally Kirkman from sallykirkman.com. Today we are talking about about Agatha Christie, because somebody sent in a question, which is, why does Agatha Christie still attract mystery? Sally, why? Or how? And who is she? Who the hell is Agatha Christie?
I mean, for those people, she's often Agatha Christie, murder mystery writer. Those famous detectives, Hercule Poirot, Miss Marple. I think sometimes people end up watching TV and film adaptations of her books and probably don't know who she is sometimes. I mean, she wrote lots and lots of murder mysteries. And they are continually being televised and adapted. And of course, her long-running play, If You're in London, The Mousetrap, which kind of ran continually for 70 years, is still on. So a very, very prolific writer, and her murder mysteries have been incredibly popular. I mean, they've been translated into books all over the world. And she's still in the psyche, isn't she? Because of people still wanting to make these murder mysteries of Agatha Christie. That's, in a nutshell, that's who she is.
One of the earliest 20th century murder mystery writers. She born in 1890, I think. Is that right? Yeah, born in 1890. Very much associated with the golden age of detective fiction, right? She was called the Queen of Crime. She was the first Queen of Crime. By her publicist, presumably. But she had a very, very interesting life. She lived through 2 world wars, and she died in the 1970s, early 70s, didn't she? So she was a young woman in World War I, middle-aged woman in World War II, and by then an incredibly famous writer. In her time, she was probably the most famous popular fiction writer in this country, if not in the English-speaking world. And she's been translated to like a zillion languages. But people are her life was also had sort of it actually was a very straightforward life in some ways. Like, she wrote books and they got published and she sold them. But there are a few mysteries about her that people still discuss. And one of them is an astrological one, right? Which is, when we were looking into this for our loyal listener, we found that there are 2 charts for Agatha Christie.
Yep, 2 birth times.
Which conflict, in fact. So I think we conflict. I mean, I'm pretty sure about one of them. You're pretty sure about the other one. So shoot with the one you like.
It's 4 a.m. is the one. We'll be showing both charts if you're watching this as well. So there's a 4 a.m. chart, which makes her a double Virgo. She's a Sun Virgo. I mean, she's, when I'm talking about Virgos ruled by Mercury, communication, Virgos are the writers, she's often a name that comes to mind. She's such a prolific writer. And the 4 a.m. chart makes her a double Virgo. The moon stays in Libra. And it was written down that her birth time was 4 a.m. And then there was another book that came out in 2009, I think, fairly recently, called The Unauthorized Biography of Agatha Christie. And in that, there's a new birth time stated, and I think this comes from the midwife or something like that. And the time is 1414. So a very much more accurate birth time. And that gives her a Sagittarius ascendant. Still the sun in Virgo, moon in Libra. And Christina and I have been debating this a little bit, which is the right one. But you talk a bit more about your thoughts on this, because you have some strong thoughts on this.
Oh, well, I just think accurate birth time. Who says accurate? It's allegedly from the bill put in by the midwife, right? So it's like she asked for money and she says it's 2:40. Whatever. Agatha Christie actually said that she was born at 4 a.m. because that's what her mother said. This is the hearsay. In her family, she was born at 4 a.m. I kind of think that one should respect that, for a start. It's a matter of respect. So some guy comes along in 2009 and says, oh, no, that's completely different. Okay, so that's the first reason I thought, oh, well, I'm going to check. Second reason. There are many reasons that I am pretty sure it's the Virgo rising. One is that it gives her Saturn rising. If she is a saturnine figure, she's always depicted, when you see photographs of her, she's always old, right? And that is Saturn rising. Virgo rising. She was a writer. She saw the world through a writer's eyes. She was incredibly prolific and very, very hardworking. Saturn rising in Virgo. So she was known for that. Second, that's just the easy part. Another easy part. So if you're looking for a writer's chart, you look at the third house. Third house, she's got Uranus, Venus, and Pallas Athena in the third house. Venus, so why do we look at the third house? It's the house of writers. Venus rules her midheaven from that third house. So her job is writing again. And also it's Venus in Scorpio, which is a murder mystery writer's, she's writing about death, essentially. She's turning death into art. One of her early books, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, is from the first person, written by I'm about to give it away. Oh my God, no. Spoilers. Everybody's read that, right? Or has seen a version of it. It's written from the point of view of the murderer, first person. Interesting. And Uranus, she actually changed the game of writing, for a lot of people. She actually helped to invent this genre of the whodunit, which is slightly different from, say, Sherlock Holmes or previous stuff. So the whodunit is very Agatha Christie, which is like she throws a question at the beginning. Every book is a question. Who did this crime? It's not what is the crime. It's not barely even why is the crime. It's how is the crime. How did that happen? Okay, so that's just for starters. Then, so that's the easy part. Then I did one thing. If there's one thing that you're going to look at in a person's life, look at when they had a child, if they had a child. Okay? That's what I would do, is to say, okay, have you had children? And when you're looking at a child's, when you're looking at that, so she had one child, and I quickly looked at this, and you're going to have a Saturn transit, okay, at that. And is it going to be Saturn to the moon? Is it going to be Saturn to the sun? Is it going to, what is it that turns this person, changes them into an adult or a different kind of, into a parent? When her kid was born, Saturn was at 29 of Leo. It was on that Virgo ascendant. So she got, basically, Saturn came onto her ascendant at that moment. So that's why I think that this is probably the accurate chart.
Okay. Just to say that, it's great in a way, because Christine and I debate a lot about astrology, and this is how we learn, Straight away, interesting what you say about Saturn, and I can see that when you have a child, because you become a parent, and there is this real sense of duty and responsibility. When I'm looking at pregnancy and children, I think two of the key things I look at is Jupiter and also the progressed moon as well. So, there's different ways of looking at these things.
Those are different, because those are pregnancy and children. Those are not becoming a parent.
Yeah, I get that. I get what you're saying with the Saturn. So, but they both happen at the same time, or relatively around the same time, within the same year, at least within the same 9 months. So yeah. There's. I just wanted to say that. Also, I was quite intrigued by this new birth time. And the reasons I liked this new birth time, and I hear exactly what you're saying, and I agree with everything that you said about the 4 a.m. birth time, by the way. I think it's very good analysis. When I look at pictures of her, yes, she is this, I see that now, the Saturn, she always looks older. The pictures of her, I just don't think are Virgo rising at all. Virgo is often, I don't know, there's something about Virgos that are sort of neat and tidy, and I often think it's a sign that there's a petiteness about it, and she doesn't look like that at all. She looks kind of quite formidable, actually. She looks quite formidable, and she's almost got a bit of a horsey face, I have to say, Sagittarius. So that's what I was kind of interested in. Also, in the 1414 time, it puts Mars on the ascendant and Uranus on the midheaven. So that Uranus on the midheaven, I mean, what you were talking about, the innovator with her writing, that she was such a famous person that I like that Uranus on the midheaven because it kind of picks her out as unique and special. And the Sagittarius ascendant, okay, she's got Sagittarius ascendant. She's definitely got Mars in Sagittarius. But she loved travel. She was a real traveller. And actually, she was really sporty as well. She was hugely into cricket. She was a keen swimmer all her life. And one of the interesting things I found was that she used to surf. It's quite unusual for a woman. And she was one of the first women to do it standing up.
She was the first woman.
The first. So, for me, I thought, oh, well, that's nice for that Mars Sagittarius on the ascendant. So, and this is interesting as an astrologer because this is what we have to do, isn't it? We've got to look at these different things. And what's also interesting about the 214 chart is it means there's Libra on the midheaven. So it still makes that Venus in Scorpio her career planet, like it does in the other chart. And it puts it in the 10th house here. So here's this kind of, the love of mysteries, the sort of detective, the Venus in Scorpio. And that Venus in Scorpio makes a lovely sextile to Saturn in Virgo, the sign of writing, which is the same in both charts. That's the real classic signature, I think, for this murder mystery writer. And in this chart, it puts the sun in Virgo in the 8th house. She was very private. Saturn on the ascendant in the other chart, there's a sense there of wanting to be hidden as well. So, yeah, that was kind of...
yeah. I mean, I would say that the main thing I agree with about that is I love Uranus on the midheaven, but she's also got it on the cusp of the 3rd house in the other chart. And I agree about the sportiness. I think sportiness is really interesting. Of course, that is also Mars in Sagittarius, sports person. It's a classic signature for that. And it's on the South Node, so she actually did it. She loved travel, or she traveled a lot. So in sum, that's why this question becomes quite difficult: is why does Agatha Christie attract mysteries? Well, the first mystery is we don't know her birth time. Really, we don't know which one of these is accurate. So there's this period that she disappeared for 11 days. She vanished, which could be the 8th house sun that she vanished during. And the big question that our listener wanted to talk about, I think, was this Bletchley Park incident. Or do you want to explain, Sally?
Yeah, we got a question come through, which we're including within this. Really, was Agatha Christie a spy in the war? And if you look at her chart, you can see that Venus and Scorpio really powerful in both charts. So that is something of a signature of a spy. Scorpio is the detective, the spy. But actually, when you look into this a little bit further, she was questioned by MI5 because in one of her novels, she called a character Bletchley. Bletchley Park, the code breakers, and apparently she did have a friend at Bletchley. So she always had this, she was very thorough, I think, in her writing and her research, and she had this kind of insight into other worlds in a way. So I don't think she was a spy, but I think she used her knowledge of spies and Bletchley Park in her writing. And I think that's why the Venus in Scorpio is connected to that Saturn in Virgo. She puts what she knows into her writing. So, yeah, that was when I looked at it. Those were my instincts. What about you, Christina?
Well, Bletchley Park, in case people don't know, was the code-breaking centre that is like halfway between Oxford and Cambridge and north of London, which was a stately home that was turned into a code-breaking centre, and that's where they broke the Enigma code, which shortened the war, some people think, by at least a year. The Enigma code was the German Secret Service code. But Bletchley Park was top secret. My father-in-law was there, and actually one of my aunts was there, and they didn't say a peep about it until the 1970s, I think, when the Official Secrets Act allowed them to speak about it. Nobody knew where the hell they'd been during the war. So that's why she was questioned, is because she uses the word Bletchley, and no one's supposed to know about Bletchley Park. And the book was published in 1941, in the middle of the war. So, this was a really, even the name, she shouldn't have known this name. And I agree with you, though. I think it's writer's intuition, because she said, well, I was stuck at the train station there and whatever. And maybe but the reason they questioned her was also because she knew personally, was a personal friend of Dilly Knox, who's one of the people who broke the Enigma code, right? So she knew people who worked there. So that's why MI5 questioned her. Or they didn't actually question her, they questioned Dilly Knox, who then questioned her. Is that they were suspicious. And my guess is that she had a feeling about it when she was talking to her friend Knox. And, she was an incredibly smart person, used to solving mysteries. And that novel was N or M, which was about codes. And she must have known that this guy was good at codes, So she probably put two and two together, I would think, and made, as one does, one has these cases. And I think that that's partly in her chart. We didn't discuss the fact that she's got this fantastic Pluto-Neptune conjunction, which is the same as the Olympics, isn't it? It's the same as the Olympics.
Yes, it is.
But which we discussed when we did the chart of the first Olympics. But actually, this is also a mystery writer's signature, because it's in Gemini, right? So of course she's she's one of a generation of people, including Naomi Marsh, a generation of women in particular, but of people who kind of really went with this genre and turned it into the huge thing that it is now. But that Pluto-Neptune, so why Pluto is about what's underneath, the archaeology. Of course, she married an archaeologist. She spent a lot of her time on archaeological digs in the Middle East, which I think is a much more likely place for her to have been indulging in spying activities, may I say, if she were to have been doing that. So she would, I think, go to the dig and write, and her husband would be digging, and she'd be helping on the dig. So that's the archaeology, the Plutonic archaeology, which is also a spy. Pluto is a spy. And Neptune is about making stuff up. It's invention, it's imagination. So she wrote quite a few spy novels as well. I don't think they're actually as well known because they weren't maybe as good as her murder mysteries. But that's mystery. A murder mystery in writing, in words, is Pluto-Neptune conjunction in Gemini.
Yeah, and also, this is to kind of come back to looking at the charts. I think this is what made me think, okay, that Virgo ascendant chart, the 4 a.m. one that she says, she's got that signature in her 10th house.
In her 10th house of career. That's her career.
In her 10th house. And actually what's quite nice about it as well is that Neptune is co-ruler of the Pisces descendant. So, this is also, when you're talking about the Pluto, this is kind of the partner who's the archaeologist. And also potentially this, the spy theme is perhaps through the people she meets. She's likely to attract spies into her life, isn't she, with that?
Well, completely. And also with her first husband, husband does that strange trip to South Africa, doing what exactly? So she's living in a world, also what's interesting about her is this idea of that she's writing during the British Empire, frankly, when there are spies everywhere. And she does a lot of traveling to and fro from the Middle East. She does some traveling to South Africa, to the West Indies. And, who knows? I would say that is, and how come she knows Dilly Knox, who's at Bletchley Park anyway? How come she knows that guy? Why is he a personal friend of hers? So I don't know if she was exactly a spy, around that Bletchley Park incident, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if she had been asked to gather information, because that's also not an unusual connection with archaeology in those days. Because as an archaeologist, you can go and you can stay somewhere for 6 months of the year.
So it's quite fascinating, isn't it? You can see why she's just, this mystery surrounds her. It really does. Mystery surrounds her. And I think what I love about this is that we have a mystery around her birth time.
Although I feel you're coming more to my side of this now, Sally. Now that we talked about that 10th house, the 10th house, Pluto, Neptune, which I have to say I was saving. But that's like, mystery writer, that's the career. That's what she's known for.
I mean, you can make a case for both. And if we were going to do this in depth, we would really go into the timing of it all and look at the timing of events in her life. And then you would get a better sense. But I mean, I can, and she was the one who said that 4 a.m. chart. So
yeah, exactly.
So, and she's a clever cookie, is Agatha Christie.
Well, I think you're also right just on that chart to point out the fact that Neptune rules the descendant, the Neptune-Pluto conjunction, and her husband was an archaeologist.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was really fun, Sally. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I hope everybody enjoyed that one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.